$150 billion. That's the kind of figure that makes you do a double take. Like, are we sure there's not an extra zero in there somewhere?
You're talking about OpenAI's valuation, right?
Yeah, that's right. It's kind of mind-blowing,
Oh.
honestly. And it begs the question, what's fueling this crazy valuation? Why are we making this the focus of our deep dive?
Well, it's not just about the money, though. That is a big part of it. It's about what OpenAI represents. Their goal, this ambitious pursuit of artificial general intelligence, AGI for short, and the, shall we say, interesting moves they've made recently to reach it.
Right, AGI, the holy grail of AI. But let's rewind a bit.
Sure.
OpenAI's journey, at least from the outside, it's been anything BUT typical, wouldn't you say?
Oh, absolutely. When you compare them to your typical Silicon Valley startup, the ones laser-focused on profits from day one, OpenAI, they kind of zigged when everyone else zagged.
Yeah, they weren't exactly chasing VC money from the get-go, were they? They started as a nonprofit, if I remember correctly.
That's right, back in 2015. And their mission statement, it was like something straight out of a sci-fi novel, to ensure that artificial general intelligence benefits all of humanity. The emphasis, at least on paper, wasn't on billions, it was on benefit.
And that got to be a breath of fresh air for researchers, right? Not just chasing the next IPO.
Oh, absolutely. That idealistic approach, it drew in some of the brightest minds in AI, researchers who were genuinely passionate about pushing the boundaries of what AI could do without the constant pressure of immediate financial returns. They were free to experiment, to explore, to really dig deep into the fundamental crons of AI.
So it was all about building that solid research foundation in those early days. I guess you could say it's a stark contrast to the OpenAI we see grabbing headlines today.
Precisely. And that shift, that evolution from an idealistic research lab to this $150 billion behemoth, well, that's the story we're diving into today.
Building the future ain't cheap, though. Especially when we're talking about something as complex and kind of mysterious as AI, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, think about it. The sheer computational power needed to even begin to simulate something resembling human-like intelligence, it's astronomical. And the data sets, we're talking about feeding these algorithms mountains of information. It's not just about having brilliant minds on the case, it's about having the infrastructure, the raw horsepower to support them.
And I'm guessing that's where OpenAI hit a bit of a snag. Yeah.
Right. So by around 2019, they started to realize that this nonprofit model, while incredibly effective at attracting top-tier talent and fostering that early spirit of innovation, it might not be the most sustainable model in the long run.
So they needed to find a way to fuel those ambitions.
Exactly. Because building AGI, well, let's just say it's a tad more complicated than whipping up the next viral app.
Yeah, no kidding. But while we're on the topic, could you break down AGI for us? For those of us who might not be fully up to speed on all the AI jargon.
Sure. Think of it this way. The AI we interact with on a daily basis, it's really good at specific tasks, right? Like recommending a new show based on your viewing history or filtering out spam emails.
Right.
But at the end of the day, they're tools. Sophisticated, powerful tools, but tools nonetheless. AGI, however, that's a whole different ballgame.
How so?
AGI, it wouldn't just be a tool, it would be more like, well, a mind, a system capable of understanding and navigating the complexities of the world with the same fluency as a human being, potentially even surpassing us.
All right, now that's both exciting and a little bit unnerving. But I can definitely see how achieving something like that would require a serious influx of cash.
Oh, absolutely. We're not talking millions here. To really make a dent in AGI research, you need billions with a B. And that brings us to OpenAI's first big pivot, their attempt to thread the needle between their idealistic roots and the realities of funding cutting-edge research.
Which is where the whole capped profit thing comes in, right? Like they were dipping their toes into the for-profit pool, but maybe with a life preserver on, just in case.
Exactly. In 2019, they adopted this sort of hybrid model, this capped profit structure, with the idea being that it would allow them to attract the necessary funding without completely abandoning their commitment to, not turning into a profit-hungry corporation.
So how did that work in practice? Did they put a limit on how much investors could make?
In a way, yes. They set a cap on profits, but here's the thing. The cap was set at 100 times the initial investment. So on the surface, it seems like a pretty sweet deal for investors, right?
Yeah, 100x return. Sign me up.
Right. But there's a catch. Even with that seemingly generous cap, in the grand scheme of what it would take to actually achieve AGI, to truly compete with the likes of Google DeepMind, who are already pouring billions into their own AI projects, It was a drop in the ocean.
So even with the best intentions, even with this attempt to balance profit and purpose, OpenAI was still kind of stuck in the slow lane financially.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
that's when ChatGPT enters the picture
Yeah.
and everything changes.
Because 2022, that was the year ChatGPT basically broke the internet, right? It seemed like everyone and their dog was talking about it.
It was a watershed moment, not just because it captured the public's imagination with what AI could do, but because it finally presented OpenAI with a viable and potentially very lucrative revenue stream.
So ChatGPT, it was more than just a viral sensation. It was a proof of concept.
Absolutely. It showed the world, and perhaps more importantly, potential investors, that OpenAI could create products with real-world appeal, products that people were actually willing to pay for.
And that's when the big players really started to circle, right? Like Microsoft, they jumped in with both feet, didn't they?
Oh, yeah. Microsoft saw the potential of ChatGPT, and they weren't shy about wanting a piece of the action. We're talking billions of dollars in investments, strategic partnerships, the works. They even integrated ChatGPT into some of their flagship products.
Talk about a vote of confidence.
Yeah.
So OpenAI had this influx of cash. ChatGPT was raking in the dough, but it still wasn't enough to reach their ultimate goal.
Right. Because remember, AGI, that was always the end game, and AGI doesn't come cheap.
So what did they do? How do you go from a capped profit model to, well, needing billions more to chase this ambitious dream?
They went all in. They decided to completely remove the cap on investor profits.
Whoa. So no more safety net, no more limits. That's a pretty bold move.
It was a clear signal to the world that OpenAI was playing for keeps. They were laser focused on winning the AGI race, even if it meant abandoning their initial commitment to a capped profit structure. And investors, they love a good gamble, especially when the potential payoff is huge.
So OpenAI went from this idealistic research lab to a potential gold mine practically overnight.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And that attracted the attention of some serious heavy hitters. We're talking about companies like NVIDIA, the ones who practically power the entire AI industry with their chips. Even Apple, a company famous for sitting on the sidelines and letting others take the risks, even they were rumored to be interested in a piece of the OpenAI pie.
Okay, so let's talk about the elephant in the room. Because with this much money pouring in, with these kinds of players involved, it's hard not to wonder at what cost. What are the risks associated with OpenAI going all in on the for-profit model?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Can OpenAI, even with the best of intentions, maintain its original mission, this idea of ensuring that AGI benefits all of humanity when their investors, the ones holding the purse strings, are ultimately motivated by, well, profit?
Right, because we're not just talking about building a faster smartphone or a more efficient search engine here. AGI, if it's achieved, it has the potential to fundamentally reshape the world as we know it.
Absolutely. And that's what makes this whole story so fascinating, so crucial. It's about so much more than just one company's ambitions or the latest technological innovation. It's about the choices we make today and how those choices will shape the future of AI. It's about who gets to control this incredibly powerful technology, who benefits from it, and perhaps most importantly, how we ensure that it's used for good, for the benefit of all humanity, as OpenAI originally set out to do. And that's something worth thinking about, don't you think?
Something to ponder indeed. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. It's been quite the journey.